Good morning and welcome to the Maryland Public Service Commission's administrative meeting for October 14th, 2020. Before we turn to our agenda today, we have minutes to approve from the administrative meeting of October 7th, 2020. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The meeting minutes are approved. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. There are 3 items on today's consent agenda. Item number 1 is a notice of name change from Velocity, the greatest phone company ever, Inc., to Velocity, a managed service company, Inc., and revised tariff pages. Item number 2 consists of revised tariff pages relating to access service from Teleport Communications America, LLC, and item number 3 is a request from Hyco Energy, LLC, to cancel its electricity and gas supplier licenses.
Thank you. Do the commissioners have any questions on the consent items? Seeing none, I would move that with respect to item number 1, that we note the company's name change and direct the company to file clean pages of its tariff sheets with an effective date of October 14th, 2020. With respect to item number 2, I move that we accept the tariff revisions for filing with an effective date of October 15th, 2020. And with respect to item number 3, I move that we approve the cancellation request. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
Aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
And Commissioner Richard. I vote aye. The motions are approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 4 on today's administrative agenda is a request from QuadLogic Controls Corporation for approval of a Kubrick 6 model solid-state electric meter. On this item for staff, we have Mikhail Spiegelman and Jim Greger, and for QuadLogic, Mehul Parek and Thomas George.
Thank you. Good morning to our staff.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Michael Spiegelman on behalf of staff. This item concerns a request by QuadLogic Controls Corporation, filed on September 10, 2020, for approval of Kubrick 6 model solid-state electric meter, manufactured by QuadLogic for electric submetering applications. Public Utility Article Section 7-301A requires a person to gain commission authorization before use of a gas or electric meter, and PUA Section 7-303D4, Romanet 1 and Romanet 2 state that all submeter equipment is subject to any regulations and standards adopted by the Commission for accuracy, testing, and record keeping of gas and electric company meters. Commer 20-25-01-04A further requires that 1. All submeters installed in compliance with these regulations be of a type and class to properly and accurately register electrical consumptions. 2. The meter type and design shall meet the applicable provisions of the latest edition of the American National Standard for Electric Meters, Code for Electric Metering, the NZC12 standards. And 3, that any submeter installed for billing purposes be approved by the Commission. In present filings, QuadLogic has provided documentations that this meter has been tested and conforms to all applicable NZC12 standards for electric meters as required by Commerce. In addition, Kubrick 6 is already approved by New York and California Public Service Commission. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission approve QuadLogic's request to approve the Kubrick 6 model solid-state energy meter manufacturing by QuadLogic Control Corporation for electric submetering applications. If approved, staff will update the list of approved devices located on PSC website. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spiegelman. Do we have a representative of QuadLogic Controls that would like to speak? Does not appear that we have.
Hi.
This is Thomas George, VP of Technology at CoreLogic Controls. We did submit all of the required documents as was mentioned by Mr. Spiegelman, and we would request approval for use of this meter in Maryland State.
Thank you, Mr. George. Do the commissioners have questions of staff or the company? Seeing none, I would move that we approve the Kubrick 6 model solid-state electric meter manufactured by QuadLogic for electric submetering applications. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Linton,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell,
Aye.
Commissioner Richard. I vote aye. The motion is approved.
Mr. Chairman, item number 5 on today's administrative agenda is a request from Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corp to qualify the Augsburg Lutheran Home of Maryland, DBA The Village at Augsburg, a continuing care retirement community, as a low-income subscriber under the Community Solar Pilot Program. On this item, for staff, we have Annette Garofalo, and for the company, Gary Skolnick, Rick Mazza, Kevin Chung, Skip Johnson, and John Madolo.
Thank you. We'll begin with Ms. Garofalo.
Good morning, Your Honor, and Commissioner Annette Garofalo on behalf of Commission staff. Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corp is acting on behalf of Augsburg Lutheran Home of Maryland, DBA The Village at Augsburg, and requesting that the Commission qualify Augsburg as a low-income subscriber for purposes of the Community Solar Program. Applicant states that Augsburg offers independent living, assisted living, short-term rehabilitation, and skilled nursing to elderly person, primarily to those who are 65 years older. Augsburg is made up of 11 separate buildings, which house 134 residential units. 6 units are one-bedroom apartments, and the remainder are two-bedroom units. The facilities will use approximately 865 kilowatts of electricity in the service territory of the Baltimore Gas and Electric Company. Neighborhood Sun states that the average income of an Augsburg resident is $35,000. Under COMAR 20-6201-02B12, low income means a subscriber whose gross annual household income is at or below 175% of the federal poverty level for the year of subscription, or who is certified as eligible for any federal, state, or local assistance program that limits participation to households whose income is at or below 175% of the federal poverty limit. Under COMAR 20-6203-03D2, an operator of a low-income multifamily dwelling may apply to the Commission to qualify as a low-income subscriber for purposes of the pilot program. And this is what Neighborhood Sun is seeking. And although Neighborhood Sun seeks to qualify Augsburg as a low-income facility under the Community Solar Pilot Program, it's an assisted living facility with nursing home capabilities and does not even hold itself out as a provider of housing for low or moderate income persons. Nor is Augsburg required by any loan, covenant, or other document to reserve any number of its units for low-income occupancy. Moreover, Augsburg is a Schedule C customer, and there is no indication that any monetary benefits will flow to any of Augsburg's customers who may be low income. And for this reason, staff recommends that Augsburg request for qualification under COMAR 20-6203-03D2 be denied.
Thank you, Ms. Garofalo. I understand we have 5 individuals that represent the applicants here, so I'll let whomever on the other side speak first.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. My name is Gary Skolnick. I am the CEO and founder of Neighborhood Sun. We are a Maryland benefit corp with a stellar record before the Public Service Commission and in the state of Maryland. We are company with a mission to help low and moderate income folks participate in community solar. We've been a leader in this state to do so. I believe that this recommendation by staff is based on a misunderstanding, which I will take responsibility for. I don't think we perhaps in our application made it clear enough how this works with Augsburg. This actually will save, the savings will be passed directly on to low and moderate income residents. And we believe that this fully qualifies under COMAR. I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Kevin Chung from Utility Advisors, who will also direct representatives of the Augsburg Lutheran Home to speak as well. Thank you. Kevin, we can't hear you.
Mr. Chung, perhaps if you unplug your headset and use the computer's audio, that might work. No, we still can't hear you.
Do we want to pass on to somebody from Augsburg, perhaps, until maybe you figure out your audio?
Why don't we do that? There's also a call-in number that Mr. Chung could call in. You should have received that already, and we could just take him off the video and hear him by telephone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Skip.
So this is Rick Mazza. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of National Lutheran Communities and Services. We are the sole member entity of Augsburg Lutheran Home, Inc., effective as of January 1st, 2020. So Augsburg is a new member of our family. All of National Lutheran's affiliates are 501c3 nonprofit retirement community entities. So for this particular property, this is definitely a continuing care retirement community as opposed to an assisted living or nursing facility. We do have 132 independent living apartments. While Augsburg does not have a formal low-income set-aside requirement incident or secondary to any type of loan indenture, the fact remains that we serve a market segment in Northwest Baltimore County that, the substantial portion of our independent living residents, almost 80% of them, earn less than 80% of median income for Baltimore County. I'm not sure how that correlates to the 175% of federal poverty limit, but it does.
Mr. Skolnick, can you please mute your microphone?
Oh, sure.
We're getting feedback. And Mr. Chung, we just sent you the call-in number via email, so check your email and you can join us by phone. I apologize, Mr. Mazzi. Please continue.
Sure, understood, no problem. So I simply left off with the idea that we serve we don't serve a market rate resident at that community. Almost 80% of our independent living residents at that community earn less than 80% of the median income of Baltimore County. I don't know how that correlates to the 175% poverty limit, but the general assertion is that we serve at that community and location a low-income senior in independent living. Furthermore, when you look at the skilled nursing population, and that's not the subject, I don't think, of this hearing, we have over 75% of our skilled nursing residents are Medicaid qualified. There's definitely an economic need at that community to provide services on a cost-effective basis. As I mentioned earlier, Augsburg Lutheran Home, Inc. and all NLCS entities are 501c3 tax exempt. They're nonprofit Maryland corporations. None of them are private. None of them are privately owned. None of the economic benefits or savings here, and nor to the benefit of any private owner or individual. Finally, I guess in respect to how any type of benefit derived from this program can get to residents. We would simply handle that if approved as adjustment to monthly billing with some type of mathematical formula deemed acceptable, to your program with it. That's commonly done here with resident adjustments with ancillary charges on a monthly basis. It's done through Point Care Click, which is our billing software for Augsburg. So in the event the benefit would run back through a community meter, I'm fairly certain there could be some type of allocation to be equitable with spreading that benefit back to residents who would benefit from the savings. So I hope that information is helpful in understanding at least a little bit about Augsburg and how we envision the participation in this program benefiting residents.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. You have some feedback going on your end if you could figure out what that is. But I think we heard most of what you said.
Mr. Chairman, there's a participant, John Nelson Trimble, who has entered twice, which I was trying to get in, who has one muted microphone and one unmuted microphone. And maybe that's part of the problem for that distracting feedback.
Thank you. As a reminder, if all participants either on phone or video could please mute yourself, we'd appreciate that. Mr.
Mr. Chairman, may I also speak? My name is John Modolo, and I also represent National Lutheran Communities and Services. I'm the Corporate Director of Procurement and Contracts Management for all facilities. One of the other things I'd like to point out is of the 11 buildings where our independent living residents reside, buildings 1 through 8, all of those residents pay their own utility bills. So with respect to how would it benefit directly to the citizens of Baltimore County, they get their electric bills in their names. So if they were allowed to participate in the program, they would see the reduction on their individual metered electric bills. So that's another portion of why we wanted to participate in this program.
Thank you, Mr. Medillo. Has Mr. Chung been able to resolve his connection? No, it looks like Mr. Chung's on the phone. Oh, here we go. I thought I heard you for a second.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you. Please proceed.
Perfect. All right. Sorry about that technology breakdown. Really good to see everyone's names and faces here. Trying to mute my own. There we go. So there were 3 major concerns that I heard why this application was being denied. And the main concerns I heard were that it is that the Village of Augsburg is being an assisted living facility and with nursing home capabilities. In reality, the Village of Augsburg is a continued care retirement community. It does have assisted living units, comprehensive care units, but it also has independent living apartments. What's being up for consideration today is only the residents at the independent living apartment. Out of those 115 current residents right now, 95 of them qualify for the low or moderate income program. Another concern I heard was that there was no required loan or covenant. There's no commitment to necessarily make sure that there's any eligibility going forward in the future. From my understanding, there is no regulation to ensure that there's eligibility going on towards the future. In fact, if I read the LMI definition, it's only for the year of being subscribed. And something that was put in place earlier this year is that one way to manage this to make sure that those who are eligible and are continually eligible is through an attestation form that the subscriber organization, in this case Neighborhood Sun, has to continually make sure that those residents are still qualified for LMI. This is necessary because, as we know, household income is subject to change, although logically in a retirement community that might be unlikely. But of course, our standards change. The federal poverty limits change. median income levels change. So it is necessary that we have some sort of metric in place where we can continually monitor and make sure those who are eligible stay eligible. And so just like any other subscriber, this would be the same case over here at the Village of Augsburg. One thing that should be noted is that Augsburg does have a continuing care, a resident benefits program based on income eligibility, and that requires them to annually review each resident's income. So the metrics are in place to make sure that those who are eligible stay eligible. And the last point that I want to mention here is that there was a concern that, are the actual financial benefits going to flow directly to the customers? And as of right now, since each resident has their own monthly services charges, not only can we pass those benefits directly to each resident, but we can actually specifically make sure that only the residents who qualify for this program are the ones receiving those benefits. And for those reasons, I believe that we should have this accepted as an LMI customer. Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chung. The four individuals speaking on behalf of the Lutheran home have provided much more information than was initially provided in the application. Let me ask Ms. Garofalo, based on the testimony that you've just heard from these four individuals, does that change staff's recommendation?
There is a change in what has been said. I feel relatively certain that I asked this question, whether or not Augsburg was a Schedule C customer, and that the answer was yes. Now, if individuals have their own electric accounts and they qualify, and I will say that Augsburg and Mr. Skolnick were very helpful in providing us, and Mr. Chung, I believe, was the gatherer of the information with income information. And while I didn't get over 90, I got over 80, maybe 82 or 83% of the the people listed as Augsburg residents would qualify as at least moderate income. And so if they had their own account, I think we could qualify those people as LMI residents. But the thing we cannot do is qualify Augsburg itself.
And Ms. Garofalo, why is that? You stated that they do not hold themselves out to be a low or moderate income housing. Are they required to do that under Comar 2062-3-3?
No, they are not. But there was, in looking at why would we qualify them as a low-income facility, one has to look for something on which to hang their hat, so to speak, and we didn't find that. However, what we did find, based on what Neighborhood Sun provided us, was that of the people in these, I forget how many apartments, there were a significant number of moderate to or low income customers. There were some who were that would not qualify. So if we were qualifying the customers, we could qualify them. If we're qualifying the home or the facility, we would want a facility that would take only low income or perhaps even low and moderate income customers. And in the things that have come before you in the past, we have seen that. We've seen people who they, as a part of their business, they have to put people on a certain covenant, and that covenant requires a certain income level. That's not the case with Augsburg. So it's the Schedule C the fact that that Augsburg itself is on a commercial schedule rather than the customers are on a residential schedule that is an issue.
Ms. Garofalo, could you elaborate further? Oh, Ms. Garofalo, if you could myself. There we go. Thank you. If you can elaborate a little further on that point, is staff's position that each and every one of these 95, I believe Mr. Chung said there are 95 low or moderate income residents, each of them would have to file an application to qualify because the facility is on Schedule C instead of Schedule R service?
I don't know that we have an application for that, but we could qualify the people based on their income because Mr. Chung has provided us with their income. And I think I think his name was Maza, who represents the facility, would probably back that up. But when we are qualifying the facility, we're qualifying every residence. So the only, so we have, I guess we have a couple of alternatives. We have the alternative of yes or no. That's the alternative we picked here because we think this is really a commission decision. The other alternative would be to take the number of, to look at the usage and take the percentage of the overall estimated usage of the facility and take that percentage and that percentage would be allowed this LMI status. And I guess maybe one thing that gets a little bit lost in these applications is that when a facility qualifies for LMI capacity, they actually can't turn on, that facility can't be turned on until they've provided proof that they've met the LMI capacity limit. So that's an issue here too. There's some that's for you to consider.
Thank you, Ms. Garofalo. I'll see, Mr. Skolnick, would you like to respond? And then we'll have other commissioners ask questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out that there's nothing in COMAR that says that an LMI or any community solar customer has to be a Schedule R. So the Schedule C versus Schedule R is irrelevant in this case. And I'd venture to say that some of the housing facilities that have already been qualified probably are also commercial or non-residential accounts. But I do appreciate Ms. Garofalo's suggestion of the 80% qualification, and that's something we can definitely live with.
Commissioners. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm interested in hearing the other commissioners' questions, but my sense with this is, one, I could barely comprehend anything Mr. Mazza said, and I think he had very important information. And the distortion in the audio was so bad on my end, I just couldn't hear him. I was trying to get him to stop so we could get it fixed so I could hear what he was saying. That was very distracting to me, but there's so much new information here and so many things that have been thrown out on the table. I subject to what the rest of the commissioners think, I would suggest we send this back for reconsideration, hold it over and leave staff and the principals get together and see if they can come up with a consensus recommendation here. That's my thought. I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Linton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions for Mr. Skolnick. Good morning. A couple of times it's been mentioned here this morning that Augsburg is on a Schedule C, but all of the customers have their own account. So is it appropriate to say then that this is a master metered complex, that the account they have is not with the utility but with Augsburg?
It's Commissioner Linton. There's actually two different groups we're talking about. So Augsburg has several buildings. Some of the buildings are master metered. Some of them have individual accounts. The application we submitted was for the master metered property.
Okay. So for that property, the Augsburg nonprofit organization is the one that has made the arrangement. And so how are they passing the savings on to the customers on their accounts?
I will pass that over to Kevin or the folks from Augsburg.
Okay, are you talking about the 80%? Or are you talking about the fact that in 8 of our independent living buildings, each resident has their own account open with BGE? I'm sorry.
I'm referencing the customers who would be underneath the application that's before us today to become low-income subscribers. I understand that Augsburg is the one that's applying, and it's the customers that are master metered with you.
Kevin or Gary, do you want to grab that one? Because it's a different calculation for the master meters. I understand the way it works with the individual ones since they're all specific customers in independent living.
I think I can add a little clarity to this conversation if you don't mind. So I think what Commissioner Linton is asking is those who are on a master metered and they have their energy coming from an account, BGE account that's not under their own name, how will that financial savings be passed off to them? If John, if you wanted to give a little more details about their monthly services statement and how some of those financial credits can actually show up as a discount for them, if you or Rick wanted to speak to that.
I'm not sure if Rick is still with us. And again,
yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me and understand what I'm saying? I don't know how to overcome the audio limitations of the phone call here. The credit, if there's an allocable way or an equitable way to share it with the residents who are eligible, can be applied through our billing software each month through Point Care Click. So it would show up as a credit similar to any other type of ancillary charge or credit that would appear on a resident's monthly billing statement.
Okay. That's all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Additional commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Richard.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Ms. Garofalo, I did want to just check a little more into this Schedule C issue. Is that, I mean, given the business model that Mr. Mazza laid out in the remarks of Mr. Skolnick, I mean, is that anything, or do we have anything in the public utility article or the COMAR that specifically calls out Schedule C in any place and anywhere?
No, and some of it may possibly most of the facilities that you've qualified have been Schedule C, but they have been required or limited in terms of who would be who would live in those facilities to customers who were at or below either the low income or the moderate income level. That's just not the case with Augsburg, and that's why this is an issue. So if, as I've already said, if these customers came separately, as apparently some of them have already been handled, then those customers could be readily certified for Mr. Skolnick's purposes and for their own, of course. But for the larger facility, we think that unless the commission were to direct us, we can't really ask you to certify that as a schedule, as a low income facility. In fact, not all the customers are low income. I'd say many are moderate, but there is a sizable percentage that would qualify as LMI, low or moderate. But because it's a commercial schedule, that there's a single bill that comes to Augsburg, and that unless you were to direct us to accept a percentage based on the income, we feel we need to not recommend denial.
But again, just as far as the guidance we have been given in COMAR through our regulation or in the public utility article, have we ever specifically stated how a Schedule C or a master metered building is supposed to be, how we're supposed to consider it, as a low, moderate income structure? Because what I've heard today is it sounds like we have from Mr. Mazzo, we've heard about the business model and the types of residents, and then we were also given some very specific information about incomes, which indicate that the, I think you came up with 82%, was also noted as 90% would qualify in the LMI category. So it sounds like we have everything we need, unless there is something you can point to in COMAR or in the public utility article that says, oh no, they did not dot an I or cross a T somewhere.
There's nothing in the statute or in COMAR about how to treat commercial customers. However, this is a single bill, and we would need some, without that guidance in the statute or in COMAR, we would need some direction from the commission allowing us to split that bill and just, let's say 50% were LMI and 50% were not LMI. In the case of nothing that precludes the company from accepting anyone who's not LMI, we would need to know that to the extent they have LMI customers in the building, that could be accepted.
Okay, so this is direction from the commission that you're looking for. But I mean, if we make a decision today that they do qualify, there's nothing that you're pointing to in the public utility article or COMAR that suggests that the commissioners would be going awry of those documents, of those regulations and laws.
I'm not aware of any such thing.
Okay, right. Thank you. Okay, no more questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Herman.
So I don't have any questions. I would say that I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell. I think we've had some additional information, and it sounds like.
Okay.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently the microphone isn't working anymore. I would say I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell. I think that there's a lot of additional information, and I think it was really good information that we heard today. And I think we heard a potential solution to staff's concerns with the percentage. And I think I was a little bit concerned when I heard that they hadn't thought about how they would give the money, provide the credits to customers. I mean, they were saying, well, we could give them a credit or that sort of thing. So I think it would be helpful to get some additional information and some specifics with respect to how they plan to credit the customers. And that it sounds to me like everybody has been very cooperative. And if we gave them a little more time, maybe they could work with staff and develop a plan for how they would provide the credits to customers that could satisfy the staff. So I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell that perhaps we should delay a decision on this until they're able to provide some additional information and hopefully work it out.
Thank you, Commissioner. I agree with Commissioner Richard in the sense that there is no law or prohibition in regulation that would allow staff to reach the conclusion that I believe that they're reaching today. But I also agree with Commissioner O'Donnell that it would have been more helpful had a lot of this material information been on the record, whether just detailing how the credits will flow to customers, or an affidavit with respect to the incomes. I know that the Augsburg did provide redacted information regarding the income of these residents, but it would be helpful for the application to be reduced to writing. Additionally, as Commissioner O'Donnell stated, some of Mr. Mazza's testimony may have been a little garbled. I did hear it, but not everybody was able to hear that adequately. I would therefore suggest that we defer this item for a period of 3 weeks until, 3 weeks until November the 4th, at which time the parties will return to the commission. This will allow an opportunity for Ms. Garofalo to have further discussions regarding what we heard from both Neighborhood Sun Benefit Corporation and the Village at Augsburg community. This was the first time today we heard that they have both residential units and long-term care units, and we're only focused on the residential units. So let's get some more clarity to the extent either Neighborhood Sun or Augsburg needs to file additional information, and I think that would be beneficial. You'll have 3 weeks to do so. And Ms. Garofalo, if you could come back. No need to produce a new buck sheet. If you'd like to just testify live, we could receive your recommendation. Then, if your recommendation does change and you wish to file a revised buck sheet, you may do so as well. So
Thank you, John.
we'll see everybody back here November 4th, 2020. Thank you. Next item, Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, item number 6 on today's administrative agenda is a request from Citizens UB Solar LLC for approval of the company's decommissioning plan pursuant to condition 36 of its approved CPCN. On this item for staff, we have Christopher Lowe, David Valcarengi, and Kenneth Albert. For DNR's Power Plant Research Program, we have Sandra McLemore and Fred Kelly. And for the company, David Bugelmans and Brian Morrissey.
Commission staff.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Christopher Lowe on behalf of staff. This item addresses the request by Citizens UB Solar LLC for approval of its decommissioning plan filed on August 28, 2020. In June of 2018, Citizens UB requested a CPCN to construct an 8.17 megawatt solar generating facility located in the town of Union Bridge in Carroll County, Maryland. On April 27, 2020, by order number 889548, the Commission issued a CPCN for the project with several licensing conditions proposed by PPRP. Pursuant to the PPRP's condition number 36, Citizens UB is required to file for Commission approval for a decommissioning plan along with a decommissioning cost estimate from a third-party consultant to determine the amount of surety bond, letter of credit, or other financial security for decommissioning. In its filings, Citizens UB describes its plan for decommissioning activities for equipment associated with the project after its useful life. The plan also addresses removal of all structures, foundations, restoration of soil, and vegetation. Citizens UB provides cost estimates for decommissioning, including salvage and reuse values of panels and non-panel components associated with the project. And the company's forecast decommissioning costs of $1,002,000 and $970,000 in salvage proceeds, which results in a net decommissioning liability of $32,000. Citizens UB commits to use either a surety bond or letter of credit at the appropriate mechanism to provide financial assurance for the estimated net decommissioning liability. Staff believes that the decommissioning plan is reasonable, and staff recommends that the Commission, number one, direct Citizens UB to establish funding for the estimated net decommissioning liability by surety bond or letter of credit. Number two, direct Citizens UB to provide evidence of its funded liability. And number three, direct Citizens UB to provide an updated decommissioning plan if the final construction cost is materially different than the cost included in the current plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Does PPRP wish to make an appearance?
Yes, Your Honor. Sandra McLemore, Assistant Attorney General representing the Power Plant Research Program. I have with me also Mr. Fred Kelly if the Commission has any questions for us regarding PPRP's comments.
Thank you. Does Office of Maryland People's Counsel make an appearance? We'll next turn to the company, Citizens Union Bridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. David Bugelmans on behalf of Citizens UB Solar LLC. Also have with me virtually Brian Morrissey from Citizens Energy Corporation, the owner and developer of this project. We have nothing to add to staff's presentation and support staff's recommendation. We're here to answer any questions, and thanks for your consideration.
Do commissioners have questions on this item? Please speak up because I can't see everybody, but I can see Commissioner O'Donnell.
Chairman, Mr. Lowe, I wanted to ask you, I apologize, can you just hold for 1 second? I have a jet from Tucson River Naval Air Station going.
I'm sorry, I missed the last of your sentence.
Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting for the jet, William Fields for the Office of People's Counsel had some technical difficulties. We don't have any comments on the filing.
Thank you.
I'm clear now. Clear the range, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lowe, I wanted to ask you, you said the plan was reasonable, but then in the recommendations, you kind of don't state what the commission is affirmatively doing with the plan. Are we required to approve the plan today explicitly contingent on the 3 parts of your recommendation? Or is there no approval required of the decommissioning plan?
Well, after our review, I think we're satisfied with the overall plan, including the decommissioning cost. And the 3 conditions are standard conditions we proposed in a different case, Great Bay Solar, case number 9380, which were also approved by the commission. So I think after review, we're satisfied with the plan.
Yeah, but you're missing my question. Maybe staff counsel can help here. My question is, do we need in a motion to explicitly approve the plan contingent on the getting the bonding in place and the other components? Do we need to express that in our approval of or taking up with this recommendation?
Chairman and Commissioners, Kenneth Albert on behalf of staff. My understanding is yes, the licensing conditions and authorizing this project do require commission approval of the decommissioning plan.
Thank you for that. We'll just have to add that to our motion if we get to one, assuming we're going to move there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners. A question for Mr. Bugelmans. If the bond only covers the net liability and if the salvage proceeds come in short of that, who would be responsible for the gap in funding?
So there's a couple nuances, Your Honor, that are important to take into account. As a starting point, it's important to recognize that the financial guarantee is in place in the event the project defaults under its obligation to decommission the project. So under PPRP's condition, under an ordinary course of business, the project will be decommissioned by the owner, and there's no need for the state or the town or the county to be involved. There's no need to even draw on the financial mechanism. It's only in the event there is that default that needs to be drawn upon. With respect to making up the difference, I don't think the condition contemplates that. I think potentially because the project would be out of compliance with the condition to decommission, that the commission could seek enforcement through some kind of regulatory action or court action to recover costs from the project owner. Again, that's all hypothetical, but that could be available.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dugelmans. Do additional commissioners have questions on this item? I agree with Commissioner O'Donnell that this is a request for approval of a decommissioning plan, and I will, in my motion, I will propose that we approve the decommissioning plan, that we direct Citizens UB Solar LLC to establish funding for an estimated net decommissioning liability of the Union Bridge solar facility by either a surety bond or a letter of credit, that we direct Citizens UB Solar LLC to provide evidence of its funded liability, and that we direct Citizens UB Solar LLC to provide an updated decommissioning plan if the final construction cost is materially different than the cost included in the current plan. The vote begins with Commissioner Herman.
I vote aye.
Commissioner Linton.
Aye.
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Richard.
Aye.
I vote aye. The motion is approved. Before we conclude today, just a programming note with regard to case number 9645, which is the BGE evidentiary hearing. That proceeding will begin today at 11:10 a.m. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.